acting the pinnacle of artistic dedication or a dangerous game with emotional health? In this episode, we examine the craft, the risks, and the allure of method acting. From Robert De Niro to Hilary Swank, we'll explore the transformative power of this approach, the toll it can take, and how faith and groundedness can help actors navigate the fine line between performance and personal well-being. Where would you go to create a believable character? Would you live like them, think like them, even hurt yourself emotionally just to become them? Today we're asking, is method acting the ultimate acting tool or a dangerous game? Welcome back to Purposed Performer. I'm so glad you're here. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Cynthia Garcia, your host, and this is a space where performance meets purpose, faith ignites art, and culture gets a thoughtful critique. Today, we're going to be talking about method acting, genius or dangerous. So please stick with me until the end because I'm going to share my personal process for preparing for intense roles without losing myself in the process, and why it's essential for your emotional and spiritual health. Plus, the more you watch and engage, the more this community grows so that other performers can find a place where art and conviction meet. So, if you're a method actor or you admire one, this isn't about bashing the craft. It's about examining what it demands from you and whether it's worth the cost. And so my goal is to help you think deeply about how you work and how it shapes your soul. Let's talk about the history of method acting. It actually grew from Konstantin Stanislavski. His work evolved through people like Lee Strasberg, Stella Adler, and Sanford Meisner. And it's the idea of living truthfully under imaginary circumstances, sometimes to the point of literally living as your character off stage. Some famous method actors like Daniel Day-Lewis, Christian Bale, and Viola Davis have given unforgettable performances, but not every actor walks away unscathed. The reason it's admired so is because it creates a raw, vulnerable performance that connects with audiences. It focuses deep emotional exploration, and sometimes it produces career-defining work. Let's talk about Daniel Day-Lewis, for example. When he played the character of Lincoln, he stayed in character for months. Could you imagine living with him if you were married to him? And what about Viola Davis? She talks about living in the emotions of her characters to find their truth. But here's the danger. The very thing that can make method acting powerful is the same thing that can break you. And I want to tell you why I believe it can be dangerous. For one, it's emotionally exhausting. Can you imagine having to carry the pain of whatever your character has going on home with you every day, and then staying in that character all throughout the night, coming back, bringing it to the set for months or weeks on end? Also, I feel there are blurred lines between the yourself that is, and the role that you're playing. Again, you're playing a role. And I do believe you can lose your identity in the character, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And then there's mental health risks. We have depression, anxiety, difficulty transitioning back to who you are. Let's talk about an example. Heath Ledger. His passing was tragic, and it actually sparked a debate about the role of playing the Joker. You may remember some of the news headlines around that time. And I've talked about him before, Michael B. Jordan, but when he played the character opposite of Chadwick Boseman in the Black Panther, he noted that after that show or film was done, he had to spend months in therapy just to decompress and get back to the core of who he is. And as a believer, my identity is in Christ, not in a character I'm portraying. Galatians 2:20 tells us, "It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. So if I give so much of myself to a role that I lose sight of who I am in him, I've definitely crossed the line. So I guess you can draw the conclusion that today's episode is all about boundaries. We are called to portray truth, not become brokenness. So I'd like to suggest what I believe are healthy alternatives to method acting. One is we can use sensory memory sparingly, not as a lifestyle. That character's life is that character's life, and our life is our own. We can also build boundaries by clocking in and clocking out of the character. And here's an idea. How about a de-role ritual? And what do I mean by that? We can pray, worship, journal as a means to release the role and to thank God for the opportunity to have had the experience to portray the truth of a character's life. Also, we can surround ourselves with people who remind us of who we are outside of the work. So here is something that I think is very practical when we're entering into these acting opportunities. We can ask ourselves, is the process that we employ, that is of method acting or otherwise, is it serving the art, our health, and our faith? Or is it consuming us? I would like to share my experience on a role that I played that was opposite of a method actor, and actually how it interrupted my own workflow. Years ago, I was a co-star in a film where one of the ladies who was one of the leads, it surprised me to no end, but she maintained her character all throughout our breaks, and she would come in to the break room still maintaining her character, and I felt forced as a new actor to go there with her, even though I was trying to take a mental break. When I'm taking a break on set, I'm actually doing other things, especially if I have all of my lines down. I know what the scene is about. I know what my goals are. I know what my intentions are, and then I just leave the rest to trust the process. That's basically how I work. I do my homework, and then I trust the process. In this particular circumstance, when the young lady would always, on a break, continue to be her character, it annoyed me to no end. And I think a more professional thing would be to do is maybe at the onset, when we're doing a table read perhaps, if everyone talks about their process, then you can actually give a heads up to those who will be in scenes with you. They may not appreciate the method acting process. So that's my one experience when I was working with someone who actually employs method acting as a part of their craft. And I'm interested in knowing, have you ever worked with a method actor, or is method acting part of your jam? So I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you've made it this far, if you haven't liked or subscribed already this video, I would love it if you would help me to grow this community of faith-based creatives. I'm coming to you with actual practical acting tips, as well as culture critiques and a little inspiration at the same time. So thank you so much for joining. Until next time, stay rooted, stay ready, and stay purposed.